Hi, I'm Sandi Genovese, and we are creating a fun thank you card today. Only it's really a thank you, and you'll see what I mean when you look at the card. Here is the cover. The message is not actually visible yet. It's sort of a surprise. This is one of those card in a box styles. When you push here, it opens the card up to create a really dimensional fun card, and you can see why I'm calling it Thank You. You can look closely and see that I've used paint chips to create the dimension or the decoration here, and I've also, these little banners that are here behind the paintbrushes are just cut out of paint chips too. I've just laid some out on the table here. Whenever I paint any place in my house, I always use bare paint because it's so nice of them to provide the paint chips that I occasionally use in my cards. This particular card is created, and you can do lots of different dimensions. I'm going to give you the dimensions of mine, but you can always shrink it down. Once you learn how to do this, you can make it any size you want. I started with paper that is 7 inches by 10.5. And the first thing I did was I scored from the 7-inch side right down the middle. So at 3.5 inches, I have a score line that goes all the way along the midline. Then I came, and every 2.5 inches, I scored going this direction. So 2.5, another 2.5, another 2.5, and the final 2.5, and that leaves a little 1/2-inch flap. You're going to fold on all of these 2.5-inch increments. So you're going to have all of those fold lines. When I flip it over, you can see that I've marked. I'm going to go back and I'm going to cut from that middle score line to the top of right along each of those fold lines. I've enhanced it by putting a pencil line so it's just easier for you to see. And I'm going to cut a notch out here. So I have one. If I set this down on top, you'll see here's the notch that's been cut out, and here these have all been sliced, and facing this direction, these are all valley folds. So I'm going to move that out of the way, and I'm going to go ahead and place adhesive on this one side tab. I'm going to try to get plenty of adhesive on there. And then when I close this over and overlap, it will, and any of the extra adhesive I can just rub off. So I end up, and when I open this back up, you'll see it creates the beginning of the structure for the card. I have a little post-it note here to remind me this is going to be the back. If you look at the card itself, this is the only of the pages that doesn't fold. This guy and this guy and this guy are going to fold down just so that you can see into the card, but the structure keeps this back piece solid, just like you can see on the finished one here. So now we need to look, I'll show you on this one, we need to look at creating the layers that we're going to fasten inside to create the rest of the structure that gives you something to fasten all these embellishments to. So if I take, I'll show you the dimensions that I used for each of what will be the front and the middle layer. These are 3.5-inch squares. And I've gone back with my scoring tool and I've scored a 1/2 inch on either end. So a 1/2 inch on either end of these, and I've given them a fold like a Z fold, so a mountain and a valley. The same thing with the other one, a mountain and a valley. And these guys are ready to go. For the one that sits in back, I think you need a little more support. So instead of a 3.5-inch square, this is 4 by 3.5, and it allows me to fold 3/4 inch and 3/4 inch. The key thing is that all of these need to be the same height because they're all going to sit inside. So this is going to be the first one, and in order to place this in here, I'm going to put my adhesive on both tabs on next to the mountain fold, and I'm turn this over, and once again, because it's flipped over now, next to the mountain fold on this side. So in case you missed me flip it over so quick, here's adhesive on this one and then adhesive on this one, because it's going to now slide into. I'm going to have to face this toward me just long enough to see what I'm doing, and then I will turn it toward you. I'm going to position this so that this will line up with the back of the card. So I'm going to tuck these inside. And right now I am only fastening this side right against, I'm pushing it so it's right against the back of the card. And I'm going to reach my hand and press down. And instead of trying to figure out when this is parallel with the front and the back, what I'm going to do is just, remember there's adhesive already on there, I'm going to close this up. And when it's closed up, I'm going to press so that the adhesive will stick. And when I open it, now you can see inside. Let me really get these folded down a little better so they're not quite so much in the way. You can see that it's flush with the top and it's attached on both of these ends, and it's even parallel. I'm going to do the same thing to attach the next two layers. I'm going to put adhesive, so I might as well go ahead and put adhesive all at once. I'm going to put adhesive next to the mountain fold, and I'm going to flip it over. So once again, I'm next to the mountain fold. And as long as my adhesive is out, I'm going to do the same thing with the other layer. So I will have all my adhesive ready to go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tuck, once again, I'm going to take this edge and I'm going to tuck it against the previous layer that I just put inside. So I'm going to just fold this out of the way and slide this in. Tuck it against, let me push on it, and then I'll turn it so you can see. I've got it tucked against the top and the bottom inside. And now I'm going to do the same thing. Instead of trying to figure out exactly where to go, I am going to close this and push. And when I open it back, I now have, I could get my finger in there to reinforce the adhesive, but I now have the second of those two panels attached. I'm going to do the same thing with the third one. I'm going to slide it in so that this tucks against the panel that we just did. So when I can see it's flush, I'm going to press, and then down below, when it's flush, I'm going to press. And then leave the other side loose and press down. And I like to go back and reinforce all the folds going the other direction as well. And I use really thick cardstock, so it makes it nice, sturdy support. So you can see I've got all the layers inside. Now comes the fun part, to decorate it. And I find it easiest, if you put things in the front, then you're really fighting to get into these middle layers. It's easiest to start with the back and work forward. So if you look at the first layer, you can see I've just used a white pen to write thank you, and it's just going to sit on this back layer. And this one I printed. I think just for variety, I'm going to write this one out. T-H-A-N-K-H-U-E. Okay, so I've written my message, and I've done it high enough that I hope it's going to peek out and you're not going to have any trouble seeing it. I'll go ahead and put adhesive on the back. Would be better if I could let that white ink dry a little bit, but I'm not going to wait. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and stick this. Let me turn this around so I can see what I'm doing here for a minute. I'm going to position this right over the top of that panel. And once I can tell that it's aligned, go ahead, fasten it down. So it's just easiest to do this right now when you're working from the back forward. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to attach the banners, and I've cut them out of the paint strips. I'm going to stick them like so. So I'm going to put adhesive on the tops and then go ahead and fasten them to the back side of that back layer. So I'll put my adhesive, and I am going to have to turn this toward me just briefly so I can see what I'm doing. All right, now I'm going to position the banners. And the whole time that I'm placing these, I need to make sure that when the card's closed, nothing's poking out the edges. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stick the green one. Let's see if I can, I have to turn this toward me. I can't see what I'm doing, but I'm going to place this. I'll try to do it so you can sort of see, like this. Here we go. See, I can place this in any position until I start to stick out this edge, but when the card's closed, that's going to show. So I can go here and I'm still good. And then press down because I have my adhesive already on there. For the yellow, it's going to have to sit a little more upright because I can't go without sticking way out. So I'm going to position this guy so that he sits about like this and press. That's going to give me the layers that sit, if you look at this, the layers that sit behind. Now I'm going to take the purple and the blue paintbrush and I'm going to go ahead and attach those inside as well. So I'm going to turn this to face me and add adhesive just to the handle of the paintbrushes. And once again, I'll see if I just lay this down, if I can sort of show you. I want as much of the paintbrush as possible to show, but once again, I can't have it tilted so that it goes on and it's going to peek out the edge. So it's got to be somewhere like so. And the purple one is going to, it can be way out here. So let's try this and press on that. And you can see how I've started to build those layers. You want to make sure that when you fold it this way and when you fold it back, either direction, it's not going to crumple any of the layers that you're putting inside. The next thing that I did is I had a red paintbrush in the next layer, so I'm going to put adhesive and I want to position it so that it shows. I'm going to fasten it to the middle layer so that it's just going to sit in between when the card's open, in between these two, roughly about like so. Then for the next two layers, I have streamers again and then paintbrushes. So I'll show you what I'm going to do again because I have to face it. So this final section, I'm going to have the banners stuck to the back. You can see that. And then I'm going to put the paintbrushes on the front of this piece. So it means I need adhesive on the tops of these. So I'm going to go ahead and place adhesive on the top of each one of these guys. And I'm going to turn it toward me just long enough to get it partially started, and then I will turn it back so you can see. Okay, so now I'm going to press down now that I have the blue and the red banner positioned so they're not going to poke out and so they don't line up exactly with the other banners. I want them to, I want you to be able to see all of the layers. So if I turn this, you can see how that's building. And then I took the paintbrushes and I made smaller versions so that when I place these, they don't just cover up the ones behind. That way you still see paintbrushes and they're not going to conceal the ones behind. So let me get this slightly positioned and then I'll turn it to face it toward you so you can see what I've done. If I do this, lay it down again so you can see. I want to be able to see, parts and pieces of all of those other layers. So press on it. So there you have all the layers inside. At this point, when you look at my finished one, you can see that all I've done to decorate here and to add the final message, if you look on the table here, you can see I've just taken some of the paint chips and put them together in a random fashion. They almost look like a mosaic. I've done another small paintbrush. I need to punch a little hole in his handle, but he'll be ready. Then I've just used an arrow sticker so that when you close this up, like so, the arrow, I write the word push. I've got pencil lines here in order for me to position so that I can write fairly straight and write my message here. And you can, you know, write additional information or more of your message on the back as well. And so that when it's opened up like so, you'll end up being able to have it look really cool. Now this is doing a thank you. I've designed a line of these for one of the companies that I'm licensed with, and they're coming out with a box of finished cards. And I have a few of the ones that they didn't pick that I can share with you. So for either if somebody's moved or you've moved and you want to say I've moved, or as a friendship I said, in a perfect world you would live next door. And you can see it's created identically. It's just different colors and with houses and streamers. Here is one that says, "You are perfect." Yes, I know it's corny. Oh well, that's me, I'm corny. And then if I think I showed you this a little over a year ago, but this was my Christmas card over a year ago, and this just says something about having a stellar holiday and a heavenly new year, I think, something like that. So, and this is actually a smaller dimension because I just had a smaller envelope than I did for the larger ones. You know, if you're like me, you're going to need thank you cards all year long. So while you're making one, why not stop making just one and make lots?